Okay, that works. Okay, so what are your goals and hopes for the speech?
All right, so basically my topic is, it's like leadership, but it's not like normal leadership.
Yeah.
I'm basically like describing how leadership is like a kind of like an inner circle that you create as like a person, and how like it's like how far you can extend like the walls of leadership. So like essentially, I'm like gonna start my speech with like a story. Were you with me? Did I?
Yeah, we were in the speed dating thing twice.
Did I tell you like Did I have you like when I told you like the story about like the planes? I'll explain it later.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
So I'm gonna basically like start my speech with that, and then like kind of relate like a bunch of like stuff into it. But basically, like what I'm saying is like leadership is not something that like you're born with, but it's like something that's like created, like that anyone can have, but like a lot of us choose like not to have it.
So you like learn it, yeah.
Yeah, so you like learn it. So I guess in terms of like goals, I guess like what my whole point of the speech is to like basically like kind of convince the audience that like anybody can be a leader, I guess. And it doesn't necessarily like you don't have to be like it's not like hierarchy. So like I was telling Dylan, I was like it's not like just because the president like is like hierarchical. It's like doesn't mean he's like a great leader or like even like a bad leader depending on who it is.
Yeah.
And not just because of who is there right now, but. So basically, what I guess my point I'm trying to get across when I give my speech is like anybody can be a leader, and it doesn't have to be like you can be a leader within like a group of like your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of my goals. But I've ran through it like 3 or 4 times, like what I'm gonna say. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't have a PowerPoint yet, but
I mean, neither.
I don't know what. I guess I don't know what I'm gonna put in my PowerPoint. That's like kind of what I'm struggling with.
I feel like nothing would make mine better either.
You know what I mean? Like I'd rather have like a big slab of paper, almost.
Or just like one picture.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I guess after I give it, we could. So here's like all the things that
you talked about yesterday.
That we like have to go through. Yeah. So if you want that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just start and just.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do the rough draft first, I guess.
All right. Let me pull this up. What you have down. All right. So in 2002 in Iraq, there's a story, and there's 2 like warthogs flying above like 22 U.S. soldiers in between these 2 huge mountains, and there's like a bad storm. And they start getting like blasted by like enemy troops, and so basically what happened was this guy who was up top flying, his name was Johnny Bravo, and he goes down in between the 2 mountains. And in this time of the like our time in society, there wasn't like good technology or anything. So basically, he's trying to pull the U.S. troops out, but they're getting blasted, and there's a bad storm. So he takes his plane and he flies it. He counts off like 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, and he's just like shooting bullets. And he's just like suppressing fire so the troops can pull out. Well, he does that like 3 or 4 times, then he runs out of ammo. So he has to go back up to this guy upstairs. And his buddy's like, no, like I'm not going down there. And he's like, you're going down there. Like that's our like troops down there. So he brings his buddy and they fly like 3 feet next to each other. Then they do it again, 1001, 1002, 1003, and he counts it off. And he's like counting off in his head. He does that 3 times, and they pull all troops out. So basically, there's 4 things that describe like happiness, and it's like what makes up leadership, and it's endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. And the first one, endorphins, is like how you mask physical pain. So like when a runner goes running, and they feel good, and then when they're done, they feel like ass. It's basically because like when you're running, you don't think about it. It's like your endorphins. It's like a chemical within your body that like takes over. So while you're running, and the second one's dopamine, and dopamine is like what like it's like what your body gives you when you accomplish something. So like if you do a task and you cross it off your list, like it produces like a little shot of dopamine. That's like why people like doing things, because like when they accomplish it, like produces dopamine. But it can also be like counterproductive. So like drugs. Nicotine, alcohol, like all those can like way offset like your dopamine levels. So the first 2 are like what you can develop within yourself. So then they can only be like developed within yourself. And the next 2 are oxytocin and serotonin. And those 2 are you can only develop by like doing stuff for other people. So the first two is basically like what a bad leader is, and the second two is like what makes a good leader.
Oh, yeah.
So the first two is like what you see like common everyday people, and then the second two, like for all four together, is like what you see like people in the army or like people who are like going out and like doing things for other people. So that's like kind of how they develop them in the army, and like how. So basically, like in society or even like in a classroom setting, like we sacrifice others so that we may gain, but like in the army, they sacrifice themselves so that others may gain. So it's like we almost kind of have it like backward. So my whole thing is like leadership is not necessarily like how high you are in society or like how low you are in society, but like if I were to see you like down the road, like would you be comfortable enough to come like sit next to me because of the environment I've created, like when we first met or like then when I met somebody else. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to describe is like the walls of leadership are like how far you extend your walls to let people in and like how you handle them, like when they're inside. So like when I'm in my speech, I'm going to kind of talk about like how I moved around. So I moved like 4 back-to-back years. I moved from like Evansville to St. Louis to Houston to Indianapolis, like 4 back-to-back years. Yeah. And I'm going to kind of talk about like how I was always like the new kid in class. So like when I finally like moved the 4th time, like and other new kids started coming in, I would now like I'm like more accepting to like because I know how they feel. Kids, So like that's kind of like how I'm going to relate like that story in the beginning to like how I moved around a lot and how. I kind of like created like this own like society, if you will, like within myself for like people to like feel comfortable. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I got.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, obviously I'm just like God, that was gas. I'm gonna start out with that story, and then obviously I'm gonna like, have more. So I think I'm gonna like what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like describe like. What endorphins is, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, like how you get each of them. So I'm gonna start with a story and then explain like the two, like how everyday people usually have like the two, like endorphins and dopamine, and that's like the everyday person. But like where does this person come from? And it's like they're created. So I don't know, like I think in my PowerPoint, like I actually go through and describe what each of them means. Yeah. It's like the first two describe what they mean and then describe like the second two and like kind of how they interrelate. So.
Yeah. I like it so far.
That's pretty much what I got. Yeah, that was tiring.
I like the story. I think it's interesting. I think that would be a good way to get it started.
Yeah. I wouldn't know how else to start it, you know? Yeah. Because it's kind of like you need something they're related to. Because like it's kind of a broad topic, but I feel like once I start like relating things together, people will kind of like understand where I'm going with it, you know? Yeah. But.
Okay.
What is it in sinister strengths? We kind of just like, I forget what me and him said about the strengths and weaknesses.
Okay. Do you want to like actually try and run through your whole speech, or? Yeah,
I could. I mean,
if you want to try.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah, I might as well for the sake of time. Yeah, I'll just start over here. It's like what I planned on is doing is like when I start like describe endorphins. Is it? I would say like it's only 8 to 10 minutes, and I feel like it's gonna fly by. You know what I mean?
I think it will too.
So I'm gonna start like here, and then like when I describe endorphins, and like constantly like kind of move. So like by the time I'm done in my speech, like I move all the way across. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I'm flowing. Yeah. But I don't know if I'll just run through it, and then after that we can figure it out.
Try. Yep.
Yeah. So I'll just act like I'm just gonna walk up to the stage. My big talk proposal out. Alright. Coming in. Yeah. So there's an old story in Iraq in 2002, and there was 2 fighter pilots flying above 22 U.S. soldiers. And they were in between 2 mountains, and in this time period, there was not the technology that we have nowadays. And basically what happened was there was a huge storm, and the U.S. troops got trapped by the Al-Qaeda soldiers, and they started getting blasted, kept getting blasted. And there's two guys flying above. One was named Johnny Bravo and his wingmate. And essentially what happened is Johnny Bravo flew down and in between the mountains, and he counted off 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, and he looped back around. And while he was doing that, he was suppressing fire, so the troops could pull out, so he could bring the soldiers back out. And he did this 5 times, and he ended up running out of ammo, and he flies back up to the top, and he gets his wingmate. And his wingmate looks at him, and he's like, "There's no way I'm going down there." And Johnny Bravo was like, "You're going down there." And so he comes back down with his wingmate, and they do this 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. They do it 5 times, and they pulled all 22 U.S. soldiers out that night. And so what I'm trying to describe to you guys today is, where do people like Johnny Bravo come from? And it's essentially at the basis that people like this are created. They are not born like this. And there's 4 kind of chemicals or traits of happiness that evolve into leadership that I'm going to describe a little bit later. And the first one is endorphins. And endorphins is how you mask physical pain. So when a runner goes for a run, they're running, they feel really good, and then hours later they sit down and they feel terrible. So it's endorphins. It's how your body chemically masks physical pain within itself. And the second one is dopamine. And dopamine is a chemical within your body that gets released when you feel proud of accomplishing something. So if you go for a run and you check it off your list, your body produces a little bit of dopamine. The negative side to dopamine is that you can trick it. And with alcohol, drugs, nicotine, anything like that, your body can get tricked. So it's important to have a balance with these two within your body. And those are the first 2, and they all come from within yourself. These 2 is, nobody can help you get those. Nobody can tell you anything. They can give you tips, obviously, but these 2 come from within yourself. You want to make sure that's on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on.
So these 2 come from within yourself. And the second 2 are oxytocin and serotonin. And oxytocin is basically the feeling you get when you go out and help somebody. So in society, you go out and help. You go to a Better Way in Muncie. You go to a food drive. It releases oxytocin within your body. So it creates a feeling of kind of like you've done something for somebody else, and that's the only way you can get it. And the last one is serotonin. And serotonin is when somebody feels proud of you. So like you go to your graduation, and you're up there on stage, and you're walking across stage, and your parents are like clapping because they're like proud of you, and it releases serotonin. So they're watching you up there on stage. They're getting a serotonin boost, and you're also getting a serotonin boost because you've accomplished something, and they're proud of you, and you know they're proud of you, and you're proud of yourself, obviously, for graduating. So the basis of who leadership comes from is the first 2 can only come from within yourself. And the second 2 is what you come by doing things for others. So a lot of leaders have all 4 traits. But people who are not leaders only have the first 2. And kind of what I'm trying to describe is leadership is not a hierarchical thing. It's something that it can be developed on the bare minimum. So you don't have to be a CEO to be a great leader. You don't have to be the president to be a great leader. You can just be an everyday person and still be a great leader. And essentially what leadership is creating a bubble. If you look at it, I'll draw. See, this is what I want to do during the...
Oh, like draw?
Yeah, so I want to draw. Yeah. So leadership is kind of like a circle. So if this is the circle of leadership, you have danger all along the outside. It's danger. You get it all along the outside. And leadership is right here in the middle. And a great leader is going to determine who gets in the circle and how far you're going to extend the walls of this circle. So throughout my life, I have learned this through some personal experiences. I moved from Evansville to St. Louis to Houston, Texas to Indianapolis, all within the span of 4 years. And I was always the new kid in class. And I kind of felt uncomfortable. And when I finally moved the fourth time, I started realizing that this is something that I developed through helping other people. And I started kind of feeling better about myself. So every time I would see a new kid come in, I would kind of extend the walls of my circle and make them feel welcome. And this is kind of what has developed me into a better leader than I think of a lot of kids or other people in general my age. And this is extending the walls of leadership. So that's what I got so far.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Man, I'm gassed.
For real. Okay, so I really liked. I feel like you're really confident. You're really good at speaking.
Yeah.
I feel like you know what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
For real.
I've had to speak like a lot because of just moving around and stuff. I've like always introduced myself. So.
Do you feel like maybe if you didn't move as much, you wouldn't be as good as
100%. Yeah. I feel like if I didn't move, because like when you move, like you well, I played sports too, so it kind of helped.
Yeah.
But even like going to school, like I didn't play school sports too in high school. Like when I was younger and moving around, like I always had to go introduce myself, or else I'd be like sitting at home by myself.
No,
so
yeah.
I'd always just like be like, "Hey, what's up?" Just like kind of like introducing myself as like I'm like the new kid. I was just like used to like kind of being the new kid.
Yeah.
Like I moved to Carmel, I was in 7th grade, and
yeah.
I had like huge Southern accent. Everybody was like, "Who is this kid?"
Really?
Oh yeah, I was like, "What's up, y'all?" and stuff like that.
Or was everyone like?
Everybody was like, "What is going on?" Like I would say yes, ma'am, like no, man, to people, and they'd be like, "Don't call me that."
Really?
Like, yeah, they like got.
So like adults?
Yeah, like I specifically remember one scenario. I was in like 7th grade. I played football.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Creekside,
and
a kid's mom took me home from practice, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, ma'am," and she was just like, "Don't call me that. It reminds me of my mother," and I was just like, "Whoa." I was
like, "I'm sorry, I was just trying to be polite."
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like so rattled. I remember going home, I was so rattled. I was like, "Mom, I just got like yelled at basically for like calling this lady ma'am," and she was just like, "It's like literally a northern thing.
Is
like
it?
People up here are asses." Like when I moved here, I was like, "Holy cow, these people are like terrible."
Mean?
Yeah, like compared to the South, like deep South, like people, like, even like if you don't know them, it's like still like such a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different vibe.
Everyone's a lot nicer.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It's kind of wild. But
it's crazy.
I guess like I don't know what to put on my PowerPoint, you know?
Mm. I was thinking about that.
Like,
maybe like during like the war speech and stuff, you could do like airplanes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like pictures like that, like old pictures.
Or like maybe like, so I guess maybe what I could do is like when I'm describing the story, like run through the story like with pictures on there, you think? Mm-hmm. Like the mountains, I could like literally.
Because some girls are, I feel like some people, not necessarily just the girls, but they're gonna be like,
yeah, like what are you talking about?
Because like guys think about that stuff more, I guess. But
I guess if I like literally just showed like, if I had it up here, I could just show like 2 mountains and like I guess like just kind of like circle like where they would be, I guess, and just like kind of
for the visual people.
Yeah, for like the visual side of it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I thought, okay, so you know how you said like the dopamine and the other one are
Endorphins.
all within a
Yeah.
So do you think there's like examples of like leaders that like you would know that like use that more often than others, maybe?
Like within themselves, like who are kind of like all about themselves and like not about, oh yeah, that's
maybe we could like add like more examples for people to understand about that.
Of like like add more examples like endorphins and dopamine. Yeah, so
of like actual leaders who like maybe.
Oh yeah, so maybe after I like
you could be like Donald Trump doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Use this or this because I don't know. That would be a good idea.
That's actually a good idea. Yeah. So like maybe like when I'm describing like the first 2. So after I give the story, I'm gonna describe like how it's like you're not born with it, but you're it's like a created thing. And then I guess like when I describe the like endorphins and dopamine, I can describe leaders who are like that. And then when I go into like oxytocin and serotonin, like describe leaders who are all like that. Yeah, that's actually that's a good idea.
Yeah. And then let's see what else. How much time do we have? 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. What else should we do? Should we run through the speech again?
Just line by line.
Line by line. Yeah.
Oh, you have to like get up here and model.
Yeah.
So I mean, line by line. I guess I could just refine like.
Or maybe we could work on each section, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like the story I'm gonna have pretty down. Because I got the basis. You ever heard of Simon Sinek? He's like he talks on TED a lot, and that's where I got that story from. And I was like, I have to use that story, but like, do you think that's copyright?
If you use the story?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think
right?
so. Not if you're talking about it.
Yeah, because like because like he gave this speech like in a different way, kind of like he gave like a speech on like leadership and like how like good leaders like kind of like extend their like walls, but like I was thinking like when I like first heard about like this topic, I was like, what am I possibly going to do my speech on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to get up there and talk about for 10 minutes. But when I watched it, I was like, actually, I was like in an interview, and this guy who was interviewing me, he's like, you should watch this. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, whatever. Yeah. And I went home to watch it, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. I was like, this is a great speech because he like talks about, yeah, you should watch it. It's crazy. He basically like talks about in the speech like how it's like 50 minutes long. So it's obviously a lot different than 8 to 10. Yeah. But I just thought the story was so great because like that's how like it's really just like the leadership. Like I guess what I'm trying to describe, and I don't know if I should describe it as leadership. Maybe I should change it. But like that's the only thing I could really think. Like that's what the talk is about is like leadership and like what makes like a good leader is like making people feel comfortable almost. You know what I mean? Right. So like you meet people in class and you're just like I would never talk to them outside of class. You know what I mean? Yeah. And actually, I think Ashley, that's like one of her strengths as like a teacher. She actually does like a really like the first day she just speaks to you like a real person. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
and she like knew everyone's name when you walked in.
Exactly. Like some professors, like I have professors who still don't know my name.
Oh yeah.
And they act like they're like all this like uptight like type person, and I'm just like get out of here. So I think that I was like almost thinking about like incorporating that speech like at the end, just be like. Take like our classroom for example. Like I feel like our class, like everybody's like pretty.
Everyone's pretty cool, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I think that's because like it comes from her, like the first day. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like I almost thought about incorporating that in there just to like absolutely like mindfuck her, like you know what I mean?
Honestly, I might do that, yeah. Or if I were you, yeah.
Because I mean, that's like I never felt more comfortable in a class than like this class.
Our presentation class.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like and everybody's pretty chill. And
even like before the first presentation, I wasn't worried to get presentation.
I wasn't either. But at first, when I was like, I had to take the class when I signed up for it, I was like, oh god, like I'm not a huge, like I don't mind talking in front of people, but I don't like presenting. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, oh gosh, but as soon as we walked in, I was like, actually, this might not be too bad.
Yeah.
Like, she's
I think that'd
cool.
be a good idea. Class example. Add that.
So I guess like this. The first 2 minutes, or I guess the speech, if I break it down, like, so we have 8 to 10 minutes, right? And you can't be under or over. Like, I guess the speech is going to take up 2. Maybe I take 1 minute for endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. So that'd be what, 4 minutes? So that's at 6 minutes.
Well, then your story too.
At the beginning? Well, I think that would take like 2, right?
Yeah.
About 2.
3, 4, 5, 6. And then like 2 more minutes to wrap it up.
So, and then.
And talk about maybe your like personal experiences and stuff.
So, because I'm going to have to, like, kind of relate in there, like, how each, like, I don't know where I should add in, like, this is where, like, you know, we were talking about, like, add an example, like, Donald Trump, or, like, somebody, yeah. Should I do that in between, and then, like, wrap it up at the end?
Or maybe you should talk about, like, the first 2, like, the dopamine and the endorphins, and then be like, so we all have this, and then at the end, talk about, like, which leaders don't have the other stuff.
Yeah.
The serotonin.
It's like I guess almost like famous leaders. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I'm just gonna have to like, who would you think?
I guess just Donald Trump. That's the first one I can think
of.
Yeah,
he's pretty. Yeah.
Or bad leaders, or.
I'm trying to think like who.
Like everybody would know.
Yeah. Because that's what Dylan. He's doing his on like sexual abuse.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, dude, there's literally so many people, like Kesha, Rihanna, like when Chris Brown beat up Rihanna, I was like, you better use it. Everybody will know who that is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't want to use somebody everybody's not going to know. It's just not the fuck she's going to do. You know what I mean? Right. So, I don't know, in terms of that, like, what I should do. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I think, if I stand here, because I think I need to, like, move across the room, you know what I mean?
I think so, too.
But I guess if I start here, I could just move that way when I describe like endorphins. and like oxytocin and serotonin.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It's like so tough. Like I've never done something like this before. You know?
I haven't either.
I mean, I guess I could watch. Maybe that's what we could do to kind of like
get an idea.
Just go like watch a TED talk and like how they move. I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? What else is on there that you have to talk about so like you get all your. So you don't get left.
Encouragement. I think we did a lot of that. I guess line by line and modeling. So I guess we can practice like the moving. I guess I don't know.
I mean, do you want to get up here and just do it for the sake of the video so you can?
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Because she's gonna. It's 50 points.
For this.
Yeah, to grade it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe let's run through the endorphins part and then.
Man, I want to look up the exact definition of endorphins.
I didn't know this thing was 50 points.
Okay.
Do you think she would let you draw on the board?
That's what I was thinking. Like, is that what
I feel like she would. I think you do too.
Well, she said it's like our presentation. Like maybe you know those big like notepads. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll just bring one in.
You could.
You know.
Yeah.
So endorphins is any group of hormones secreted within the brain and nervous system and having a number of psychological functions. They are peptides which activate the body's like opiate receptors, which is like. Yeah, that's exactly. What activities release endorphins? Exercise, eating, drinking, having sex, meditating, and laughing. Oh. So that's like when you laugh. Oh, this makes sense now. So I start remembering. It's like, you know when you laugh so hard that you literally like stop, it hurts? That's because you run out of endorphins.
Oh,
yeah, doesn't that make sense? Yeah, so
that
like,
makes sense.
If you laugh so much.
Or like you can't get it out anymore.
Oh, maybe this is it's all come together now. So, like, what I'm trying to describe with, like, in the leadership is there's the last thing. So, like, those 4 chemicals, like, describe happiness, right? And then there's this thing you have in your body called, why am I forgetting what it's called?
Dopamine?
No, it's not. Cortisol. Cortisol. Okay. So, cortisol is, kind of like what protects your body from, like, outside. So, like, you know, and if you ever seen, like, a field of, like, deer, like, one deer goes like this, and they'll go... Like all of them, that's like cortisol. So it's like So like if you go like that, it's like using up your cortisol and then you release it. Mm. So like bad leaders are like people who are like always making like your cortisol drip. So if you think about it, like say you have like you're working for a boss and you go home at night, all you're thinking is like, oh shit, like I have to go and work for this guy. Like, oh my God, I gotta go work for this guy. So your cortisol drip is just constantly dripping and dripping and dripping and dripping. So, like, when you get to work, you're already exhausted yourself outside of work. So when you get there, you can't perform on, like, the level you should because now your cortisol is already used up. Mm-hmm. So now, like, you're already tired and all that. So now your endorphins start getting attacked. Like, you start eating or, like, doing this. So now your dopamine level's way up here. And it's not, like, balanced like it should be with your endorphins. So, like, that's kind of, like, what I'm trying to describe. Does that make sense now? Uh-huh. So, like, the like, whole thing of, like, a good leader is, like, they have the last 2 to be able to, like, put people in positions to, like, succeed, essentially.
That's true.
So I guess, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to explain that in 8 to 10 minutes, but...
Yeah, seriously.
I feel like that's quick, almost. Like, I'm meant to fly through.
It is going to be really fast.
I feel like I'm up here talking quick now, and I'm sweating.
Yeah, for real.
So, in terms of, like, that modeling, I don't know what you want to do, but, I mean, just so you have something for the sake of...
Yeah. Maybe we can, like, try the speech again, and then...
Do you just want me to run through the story?
Sure.
And then you could just...
And then I could, like, say I could do it better.
Yeah, exactly. So that way you at least have something. Because basically what you have to do...
For the highlight.
You just have to go through and, like, put in, like, where you guys practice that.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and then she just goes in and, like, watches. So I'll just come in and do the...
story?
Yeah, the story. Okay. So there's an old story in Iraq in 2002. And there were 2 Warthog, which is a U.S. fighter pilot ship, or a plane rather, ship. And there was 22 U.S. troops in between 2 huge mountains in the middle of Iraq. and they started getting pounded on by bullets from the Iraqi soldiers who were sitting in the mountains. And there was a bad windstorm that night, and there was a guy up top flying above, and his name was Johnny Bravo. And essentially what Johnny Bravo did was he flew his plane down, and he counted off 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And what he was doing is he was suppressing fire against the Iraqi soldiers so that the U.S. troops could pull out. And at this time in 2002, we didn't have any of the technology that we have nowadays, so he had to physically count off and kind of remember and kind of sacrifice his life for the sake of the people below him. And he did this 5 times, and then he ran out of ammo, and he had to go back up and get his wingmate. And his wingmate didn't want to go down there at first. He was like, "There's no shot I'm going down there." And Johnny Bravo was like, "You're going down there." So he brings his wingmate back down, and they count off 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, and he loops back around. Do this 5 times. And that night, 22 U.S. soldiers survived. So I'm trying to describe where do people like Johnny Bravo come from. And it is at the basis that they are created. They are not born like this. And there are 4 chemicals that make up a good leader, or what a modern-day psychologist would call the 4 chemicals of happiness. And that is endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin.
Okay, so when you talk about when they're like shooting the things, are they like going in a circle? Is that what you mean?
Okay, so basically what happens
or it's like they're shooting, going back
so
to
like basically what happens is like, say this is why I want to draw.
No, yeah.
Like this is why I like need to draw something. So like I'll draw it up here. So like say there's 2 mountains right here, right? So the troops are right there, and they're getting like blasted from all angles like this way. So he takes his plane basically, and he's coming from this way, and he flies this way over them, and he's shooting to the left. But like what happens is he has to go down low enough in the mountain. He has to like go down there low enough to like where he can like get a good aim and shoot him. And then like right before he hits this mountain, he literally comes back up and like is upside down flying below him, and then he comes back, and then he does it again. So he like keeps going like this.
So it's like in a circle kind of.
5 times, but then he ran out of ammo. So he had to go get his buddy.
Okay.
So that's the story, and then like I'm gonna relate that to like how how he's like how he was a creative leader.
Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe when you tell the story, when you talk about how like he goes back up to get more ammo, I would probably talk about more details about that. Yeah. Because people would be like, "Go up where?" Because I know I was like, "Go where?" But like obviously to get more stuff.
Maybe I just draw that. Maybe I think draw it and put it. What if I just drew it and put it in the PowerPoint?
You could, or like make it on a slide.
Yeah, I could do either.
You could do that.
Yeah, because that would be like a visual representation. Because like it's kind of hard to describe. Like so, he literally had to like go down like over the mountain and then down into the mountain and then like shoot and then just pull it back up and come back around and do it again. Mm-hmm. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that wild? That's a true story too.
That's crazy.
In 2002 in Iraq.
Really?
That's like what people. I mean, over there, it's like it happens every day. Just we don't know about it.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
that's crazy.
Isn't it a wild story?
It is. What war was it?
That was like right after 9/11, like when the it was like.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was like retaliation. Well, it was like when the Taliban was trying to take over like Kuwait.
Yeah.
Which is hell if I know. Mm-hmm. But it was right after 9/11.
Yeah. I feel like maybe you should, like, add that, what kind of war it was, because some people will be like, well, are they just shooting each other, or... So I'd probably add that next time you do it, and then talk about, like, when he goes and gets his ammo, like, where he's actually, like, going, instead of just saying go up.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to try it one more time, and then we'll go to the next thing.
Yeah.
Or just...
Yeah, I'll
walk in.
What do you think I should... So I should add...
Just like more details, yeah. Maybe like say like
that was.
I can look next time.
Yeah, when it starts, I'll describe like in more detail this time.
And then say like what war it was probably, and then what else did we say? Just more details, I guess.
So, maybe I start out and say right after 9/11, 2002.
Yeah.
You know, because
everyone knows about 9/11.
Exactly, everybody hears 9/11, they're going push it.
They're like, here we go.
So maybe I start with that.
Yeah.
Like right after 9/11.
So like we'll have better like context
slower, I guess.
Yeah, that too.
I feel like I'm like gassed.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that, and then add more
detail.
Just add more detail.
More detail. Yeah.
Okay.
Like when he goes up and stuff like that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So after 9/11, in 2002 in Iraq, there was a scenario where 22 U.S. soldiers got stuck in between two mountains, and they were down in front, and they were getting blasted by the Taliban when the U.S. troops had retaliated after what happened in 9/11, and they were over there trying to keep the Taliban from invading Kuwait. And there were two fighter pilots, one up top, flying above these two mountains where the U.S. soldiers were, so they could keep in contact with troops on the ground, is what they call it in the Army. And so they were kind of looking over their soldiers below them, and the guy flying up top, his name was Johnny Bravo, and he kept hearing shots fired. And so he goes down in between the mountains, and the U.S. soldiers, the 22 on the ground, they're just getting absolutely blasted by the Taliban. And so he goes up over the mountain, and he has to fly down all the way in to about 400 feet off the ground. So he's about 400 feet above where the U.S. troops are. So he comes up and over, and he just starts flying through and suppressing fire so the U.S. troops can pull out because they're way outnumbered. And he does this, and he's counting off 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And then right before he gets to the other mountain between where the U.S. troops are kind of pancaking, he pulls up his plane, and he comes back around. And he goes down the other mountain, and he does this again, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, then he loops back up again. So he does this 3 more times, and he runs out of ammo. So the U.S. troops are like halfway pulled back from the Taliban, and he runs out of ammo. So he flies all the way back up, and he gets his wingmate, and his wingmate was flying above him in case anything bad happened. And he goes up, and he goes, hey, I'm out of ammo. You have to go back down there, and you have to help out the U.S. troops. And his wingman at first was really reluctant, and he didn't want to do it. And Johnny Bravo was like, this is what we signed up for. We had 22 men down there. So his wingman comes down. They do the same thing. They come right back over the mountain. They get down about 400 feet to where the U.S. soldiers are. And they count it off again, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And right before they get to the mountain, they pull back. And they do this 4 times. And after those 4 times, the U.S. troops finally pulled out 22, and all 22 troops went home safe that night. How long was that?
It was 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Holy cow. I mean, I guess that's kind of good, though.
Yeah, I think it's good. And then when you do the dopamine and talk about stuff like that, that'll be like a minute.
A minute probably each, so I'm looking at like, what, 6:30?
6:30 already.
And I have 3 more minutes to
spare.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be perfect, actually.
I think it would be, too.
Maybe I don't even have to... God, that goes fast.
It does. It is going to go fast.
I thought it was flying.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so...
It sounded good.
Yeah, I think adding more detail kind of like make more sense. Did the last time make more sense than the first time?
No, yeah.
Yeah. And then, man, I think I'm just like going to draw pictures.
I think you should, too.
And then just put them on the PowerPoint slide.
Because I feel like it'll make more people engaged to it because they're like, what is he doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What's he drawing?
And like, yeah, and it's kind of hard to like visually represent that, I guess. Like if you're not like because like males play video games, so like they would kind of know, but like the females kind of like probably wouldn't be as like what's going on. But if I think I actually like explained it, like it would probably
make more sense. Because the first couple of times I was like, "Oh, flying down from where?" and stuff like that. But it definitely makes a lot more sense now. I think.
Did you give your speech on Tuesday? Like how are you gonna start? Like, are you gonna start with like the screen off and then like go tap it and then like walk into it, or like
probably tap it and walk into it? I think.
Like, cause last time I think it was my what's the last one we did? The limited prep one. Mm-hmm. I like
that one was so bad for me.
Oh yeah, same. I got shredded.
I did too.
But. Like, I had this PowerPoint up, and I clicked into it, and she was like, don't do that. Like, blank the screen and, like, open it up, and then, like... Because, you know, like, on that little pad, like, you can hit, like, and it'll go, and it'll black it. She was like, pull up what you want, and then hit it. Because she's like, if you're, like, going in there, like, it looks like you're almost unprepared. So... I
guess that makes sense.
I guess, like, I'm just going to pull up, like... Because if I'm going right into that, I guess I could just put, like, 9/11, like, on the board, you know?
Or just a picture of it.
Because there's not a slide limit, is there?
She said like 300 to 500.
Oh gosh. Oh yes, and then we can
Yeah.
have however many we want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we just. I don't know.
Talk about what to put on the slides, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Do we have to have it show us?
Yeah, like what do you like put on the slides? Or maybe.
Maybe since you're talking about 9/11, do like a picture of it, or like the towers, or even like the kind of plane he was flying.
I'll read this to you, and because this is like what I had to turn in for my proposal, and I think I've like kind of put everything in there.
Yeah.
This is from the beginning. Leadership is something that is free to every single one of us, but it is only something that a small proportion of people ever develop throughout the course of their time here on Earth. It is something that is learned. You are not born with it. Creating an environment of leadership is simply one of the hardest things to create amongst your peers, colleagues, friends, and loved ones. Leadership is based at the definition of 4 traits that professionals believe make up what we would call modern-day happiness. That is, endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. The point of my big talk idea is implicitly stated. Rather, it is correlating a variety of different life perspectives together into what I would call modern-day leadership. Leadership does not have to be something of hierarchy. Rather, it is a choice that every single one of us can make on a daily basis. Leadership can be seen in all different aspects of life, and although some people are in position of power, they are not always great leaders. Furthermore, leadership is important in our society. We need more of it. The greatest troublesome with leaders is that there is only a number of people who are actually considered cultivating leaders. In essence, this is the root cause of many problems in our society. The story with leadership is that it is a choice any person can make. It is free. No one can take it away from you. The leadership capabilities that you can possess on your own. Leadership comes with relying on a few basic human values. My moment throughout my big talk is going to be explaining the value in leadership and how powerful it can be, and essentially where great leaders come from. So that's like kind of the story, like where it come from.
Yeah.
I'm going to relate it to the story of U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan, how they create leaders amongst using the 4 traits as discussed above. I will make the audience feel a sense of urgency to better themselves in their past leadership and try to avoid making leadership seem so impossible like many other great leaders around the world do. I'm going to drum. I don't know why I put drum. Drum upon the fact that leadership does not mean you have to be in a position of power, but in a position to control your mind. This is where I think the money will be made throughout my presentation. My connection with the audience is I'm standing up there and speaking to my own peers how powerful leadership can be even in our own classroom. But, I mean, I describe that story. I feel like I'm going to be crunching time just to get that in.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess in terms of like a PowerPoint, I could just start with like a picture of 9/11.
I guess so. Either 9/11 or like maybe like the plane that he's flying or something like that.
Oh, maybe I do start with
Picture
like a picture like a warthog.
Yeah, that might be cool.
So like people. This is essentially like how big it is.
Yeah.
So like it's got like all sorts of like rockets and stuff.
Seriously. Yeah, I think you definitely need to put something like that in your PowerPoint.
I go Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Like next Tuesday?
Yeah, I talk Tuesday.
Why? Is that what you picked?
I signed up for the first day because I don't want to like have to do it when I have all other finals.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was just like, screw it, I'll just go
Tuesday?
first. So I'm practice all weekend. I think I'm gonna have to. Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
Yeah, I guess I could just start with like, this is I don't know, like a warthog airplane, like what? I guess, so after I do that part, then I gotta go into like endorphins and talk about all that. Should I do like a definition? Or describe what it is and like how it relates to like your body?
Yeah, probably. For some people,
Here, I'll show
they might
you
zone out for that.
I'll show you the talk.
And then after you talk about the endorphins and all that, what personal stories are you going to talk about? Just like moving and stuff?
So this is the story.
In Afghanistan.
This.
Oh, that is.
A-10 Warthogs.
So we'll watch this and then we'll talk about like it's like 4 minutes.
Flying slow aircraft designed to provide ground cover for troops on the ground. And on this night, it's a very, very cloudy night. The storm's in the area. These two planes hanging up above, just waiting in case anybody down below needs help. Up there, it's gorgeous. The moon is bright.
He has 45 minutes though, so I have to like crunch.
Yeah.
The clouds look like the snow had just fallen. Down below in the valley, however, there were 22 Special Operations Forces troops trying to make their
Maybe
way
add that, the 22.
Special Operations Forces. Yeah, so like think about like what I could be adding. Wow. He tells a story.
Above, call sign Johnny Bravo, and yes, he stands like this. He could feel their unease listening to him over the radio, so he decides he was going to go down below the cloud and just have a look. He tells his wingman, hang out up here, I'll go see what there is. And he points his plane down into the clouds. And as he's going through the clouds, the call comes over the radio. Troops in contact. Troops in contact is what they say when they come under effective fire. It means they're in trouble. So now Johnny Bravo points his plane straight down. The plane's getting thrashed about in the turbulence. And when he comes out below the clouds, he's less than 1,000 feet off the ground, and he's flying in a valley. Cliffs on both sides. Now this is only 2002, and the planes were not yet equipped with ground-hugging radar. And worse, they were using old Russian maps. That's all they had at the time. And the sight that greets him is something like he's never seen before, not in training and not in the movies. He sees tracer fire coming from all sides of the valley, pointed right in the middle where the American forces are. And so he picks a point and starts to lay down suppressing fire. And he's flying, and he's in danger of hitting the cliff, of course. He knows his speed, he knows his distance from the map, and he literally counts out loud while he lays down the suppressing fire. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Pulls hard on the stick, pulls back up into the cloud, comes down around again. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Good hits, it says over his radio. And again, he comes around. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. He runs out of ammunition. Fuel is fine. Flies back up to the top of the cloud, tells his wingman, you need to get down there. His wingman isn't sure about the conditions, so the two of them fly back down together. His wingman lays down the suppressing fire, and Johnny Bravo counts as they fly 3 feet apart from each other, wing to wing.
Like this big ass airplane is flying 3 feet apart. It's like how close we are.
Seriously. That'd be scary.
That night, 22 Americans went home alive.
So that's like the story.
Mm-hmm. And that's the first time you heard it was the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, so he talks about like, he's more talking about like within like the business setting, like what leadership is, and I'm talking about more like in like the just like life setting, like how can you feel comfortable? Like it's because like if you meet somebody that created like some people are inviting when you meet them, some people are like don't talk to me, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like what I'm trying to, I guess, get my point across. But like I thought the story was like so great, I had to use it. It's like it kind of like relates to like how like people who are inviting like kind of create like an environment like where people like naturally gravitate towards them.
Yeah. So what examples are you going to talk about after? Just moving around a lot and stuff. Now you're new.
I know that's kind of what I need to figure out.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Are you like you're on the baseball team, right?
I used to be, yeah.
You used to be.
Yeah.
Are you like a leader in any other like club?
Like
or something
club
like
now.
That? No.
I mean, no. Not like I'm not like the president of your club. I was in high school.
Yeah.
I mean this. Oh yeah, you went to Carmel. You know like you know what K8 is?
Yep.
In Greyhound Connections.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like my sister's one who created K8.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, I like went around and did that, and that was pretty fun. Like, we just like went to elementary schools and like hung out with kids and like played games and stuff, and like just kind of
cool.
try to like pick up on like their whole life.
Yeah.
That was like a wild club. Did you ever have Fletcher in class?
Mm. Oh wait, was she a psychology teacher? Yeah.
She's kind of like an interesting character. Yeah, she's a little.
It was hard to.
She's a little different. Yeah, she's definitely a little different. But basically, like what we do is we just like I had 4 kids, so like goal days I'd leave SRT at like 10, and we'd go to our first school. It'd be like 10:30 to 11, and we'd just like hang out, play games, like whatever the kid wanted to do. And basically, like a lot of them were like kids who, like one of them, the kid told me like his mom threw him off the wall. So I had to like report it.
Threw him off the wall.
So like we're basically there to like because of like there's bad home life. So like we had to pick up on if like they're eating. Like I had a kid whose dad wouldn't feed them, so I had to report it. So it's like stuff like that. So like they give it like them like a mentor. So like it's not like a teacher because they think they're like more likely to like tell like a kid. And then one of the kids I had was just like he didn't want to do anything in school. So like for 15 minutes I had to like sit down and do schoolwork with him. And like 15 minutes I'd be like, all right, if you do schoolwork, like we'll go play a game. But until you do this, like we're gonna sit here the entire time. But it was kind of wild. But that's like the only thing like in terms of like leadership. I mean,
I'd probably talk about that honestly. You could probably talk about that for a couple minutes.
Oh yes, yeah, I guess.
Honestly.
Oh yeah, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Like kind of like figure out a way to like kind of spin it into like how I've like kind of developed like these traits, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess I could because that would be like the serotonin and oxytocin boost, you know? And like kind of how
like I'm such a good leader because
do what I do.
Yeah.
No, but I guess I could kind of like develop that into like that's a great idea. Because like that's like basically serotonin and oxytocin. Yeah, that's how it's released.
You're leaving school.
Yeah, it's like it's releasing. That's a great idea. Maybe I ain't gonna do that. So I guess like after
that'd be a good way to bring it back, I think.
And kind of like so I could do that. I could give the story at the beginning. Endorphins, explain them. Yeah, explain them, and then go into that, and then kind of wrap it up at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know what do you think in terms of like that, like wrapping it up at the end? I guess because it needs to be like something. Because like what I was saying in class today is like when I read this thing online, I was like people remember what you first say and remember what you last say, and everything in between is kind of a blur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I gotta have something like kind of powerful.
Yeah.
But
you're definitely gonna have to. I don't know. I'm not very good at wrapping up speeches.
Me neither. I just like want to be like, all right, I'm done.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess just work on that part.
I guess I could like bounce ideas off my sister or something.
Yeah.
I mean, something that kind of ties in like this first story and like my story, kind of.
How did he end it?
That's a good question.
So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Leadership is not a rank. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is a decision. Leadership is a choice. It has nothing to do with your position in the organization.
Maybe that's how I...
Something like that, honestly.
Yeah.
I like how we both were like...
Yeah.
That.
Right of you, you have become a leader. You've seen the movie 300, right? The Spartans.
You seen that?
Have I?
Yeah, I've never read it. I don't know what that is.
What's it called? 300?
Yeah.
You just said.
Wasn't their muscles, wasn't their spears, it was their shields. They stood.
Maybe use that line that he did.
Or just like,
yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do about it? I guess I could propose that kind of question. Like, what are you going to do? Or
to be a better leader.
Like, kind of like,
stuff like that.
Yeah, like, kind of like, do like a proactive thing, I guess. Is that the word for it? Like make them like proactive.
It's the shield that matters, not the spear. Not the spear. It's your willingness to sacrifice yourself.
The
not
shield.
Your life, maybe your credit, maybe your little time.
Be the shield in your own life.
Maybe getting up from your desk and talking to somebody for 30 minutes instead of sending a 3-minute email. It's your willingness to
the other thing, like, so he talks about like, which is kind of funny. He talks about this because like I'd rather call somebody than text them. Like,
Me too.
I think it's a lot easier, and plus like texting, I always think that like if you're asking a question, especially one that you want to really answer, they can plan what they're gonna say back. Yeah. And you know what I mean? And like if you call them and you ask them,
you're like,
they have to have a real life answer. Like they can't.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You know what I mean? So like every time I want a real life answer, I always call because I always feel like with my ex. Do you know who Hope Henderson is? I dated her for a long time.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, right before we broke up, like, I wanted, like, real-life answers, and I would just call. I would just be like, listen.
But she'd be like, what?
Oh.
Why can't you just text me?
Oh, yeah. I was just like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, but
I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Because you can take however long to reply.
Exactly. So, like, what he talks about is like, calling somebody is, like, a lot more meaningful than, like, sending an email, because an email is so easy.
Yeah.
So,
that's interesting. So, do you call a lot of your friends more often?
Yeah, I always call.
Yeah.
Like,
or FaceTime?
Yeah, my ex, you know who Carly McNerney is? I used to date her too.
Really?
Yeah, she goes here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she went here because I was here. I was like, oh. But she used to always say like, "Why are you always on the phone?" And I was just like, as soon as I heard that here, I just wanted to send it to her and just be like, "This is why." It's like it's more meaning. It's a more meaningful thing. Like I think that's kind of the biggest problem with like kids our age. Is like we've grown up in the texting age. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's not our fault. Like it's literally society's presented it to ourselves. You know,
that's true.
It's like not our fault that we can text and it's easier.
Oh,
But 20 minutes is
I think it's almost time. 55.
yeah, perfect.
We did it.
Woo!